Hi there, ho there. As one can easily see, we have the aforementioned Gewaltige cartoon body for this episode. I'm still holding out for this one, though. I realize that the one I have is more flexible and energetic. After all, White Boy here hasn't moved in 500 years, but he does make it look good. Next to this, my Gewaltige cartoon body looks a little flat. Of course, it's helpful to, when at Carnegie Hall, have a pair of working hands when confronted with a live Steinway. One involved in comedy becomes a student of that most delicate of balancing acts, timing. While a well-timed bit can save the show, a blown cue can wreck everything. Hence, we found it sad but not surprising that routine bureaucracy in Israel is as big a party pooper as is bureaucracy stateside. Some Israeli paper pusher managed to foul up two state visits simply by doing her job. That's indeed impressive. However, the entire flap revealed some measure of confusion on the part of the Obama administration as regards what is and should be appropriate U.S. policy in the Middle East. Maybe we here at Radiow's Revenge can offer some informed suggestions that might be helpful. Israel is Jewish land, and has been since 2,000 years before the creation. And if that's not good enough, God's arrangement was confirmed in 1948 by the United Nations. And undivided Jerusalem is the eternal capital of this Jewish Israel. Same source, God. And, to top it off, the Israeli Defense Forces liberated Jerusalem, including Temple Mount, in 1967. And Jerusalem became one holy city again in 1980. Getting all this? If not, feel free to rewind. The conclusion the foregoing leads to is obvious and calls out a critical question of the Netanyahu administration. Residential housing is good and absolutely essential, but when will construction on the third temple begin? Build, Bibi, build. Now this.
Alright, y'all, that was great. Now let's reset and do it again.
It's nearly that wonderful, magical time of the year again. Pesach cleaning started in some quarters a few days after Purim, and our neighborhood matza factory has been running full tilt since Hanukkah. Pesach madness is upon the Jewish community, and stress levels in kitchens all over intensely Hasidic Brooklyn are ratcheting up to a level which, by Erev Pesach, will have become beyond human endurance. You see, the higher the level of observance, the higher the level of anxiety. Which brings to mind a story. It was approaching my first Pesach in Marin County. I had managed to dodge some of the Purim responsibilities by being the designated driver and was quietly enjoying a little sip by Kiddush the first Shabbos after Purim when Rabbi Rice walks up and slams down on the table the biggest bottle of Jack Daniels I had ever seen. "It's chametz," he said to me in all rabbinic sincerity. "And this is relevant to me how?" I inquired. "It's chametz," he said again, "and we're making you responsible for disposing of it." Back home, the running joke among the new BTs is, I was never much of a drinker till I fell in with the Lubavitchers. Which brings to mind my favorite obscure medrash, which just happens to be relevant to this season. Bnei Israel left Mitzrayim with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. This is a very famous verse, so important to the story of the first Passover as to have merited major column space in the Haggadah. As is always the case with matters of Torah, there's a bit more to it than is immediately apparent. Let's, for example, do some biblical math. We learn out that some 70 families of indeterminate size went down to Mitzrayim during the 7 lean years and stayed for 210 years, during which time we learn from biblical sources our ancestors were quite fertile in Egyptian exile. The generally accepted total of descendants who departed Egypt after 210 years was 600,000 men between 20 and 50 years of age. Factor in women, children, and grandparents, and the population swells to roughly 3 million Hebrews marching out of Egypt. That's a lot of strong hand and a whole lot of outstretched arm. But wait, there's more. It stands to reason that our Hebrew ancestors, at least as industrious and creative as their descendants were to become, would find something to occupy all those strong hands and outstretched arms, and we learn out from our aforementioned obscure medrash that, in fact, Bnei Israel's strong hand was well occupied. As it turns out, the big procession out of Egypt was led by a mighty and majestic banner, crafted in miraculously short order by the most sublime designers and skilled craftspeople in the Egyptian Empire to mark this momentous occasion. Medrash describes this banner as being massive in size and bearing all 12 colors of the tribes of Israel, blended into a multicolor array which reads suspiciously like the description of a tie-dye. But it was the words emblazoned on that banner that we remember from generation to generation and celebrate each day as if we were going out of exile for once and for all on that very day, just like Bnei Israel did on that great day so many years gone by. Those words? Need one ask? Let's say it together.